Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. Week 5 DraftKings Monday Night Football Showdown. We got a matchup between the Packers and the Raiders. The Packers favored by 1.5, 43.5 total. Fair enough game in this one. We have some very straightforward offensive places to go for in this slate. We have players coming back from injury, or at least that came back from injury on the last week of games. We're going to talk about how to deal with them, what they did last week. It was like 11 days since they played. And then how we're going to deal with that moving forward. We're going to build a pick'em card over on Underdog Fantasy and take a look over on Fantasy Labs at how we're going to go about building these mass multi-entry 150 lineups. Whether you're going to enter the big one for $15 or $20, whatever the cost is this week on Monday Night Football, or if you're a mini-max player trying to learn how to dip your toes into the waters of mass multi-entry. It only costs like $50 or $75 to max enter the low dollar contest, the dime, the quarter, whatever they are, depending on what site you play on. It's worth finding out if you're good at it or not. So we're going to talk you through all of it. Thank you guys for being here. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notifications bell, and let's go.
He's a legend.
Before I get started, I wanted to remind you to head on over to the Al Smizzle Fantasy Football channel. That's my second channel. That's where the recap video goes up every single Monday, as well as a Rainmakers preview, some college football and NFL betting tips from unabated.com. Go to smizzle.tv/FF. It'll take you right over there and get you subscribed to the Smizzle Fantasy Football channel. Like I said, every Monday I go over the winners of the Smith Gang League that we run every week, the Listener League, as well as my cash game lineups, my tournament lineups, how I did I win, did I lose on the weekend, where was I right, where was I wrong, where did I get lucky, where did I get unlucky. So we go over every single bit of it every single Monday, full transparency. If you want to know how I did this weekend, Monday afternoon on the West Coast, about 11 a.m. on the West Coast, that video is going to hit. So thank you to producer Rosie for getting that one ready. And let's talk about the slate. The most obvious captain, okay? Adams is listed as questionable, but like he's expected to play from everything that we had seen. So like, he's ready to go. So I'm going to operate under the sense that he is ready. And when he is ready, he's first in the league in terms of target percentage. He leads the league in terms of his team's air yards with like over 50% of them. He is officially hashtag good. I don't think I need to go too deep into the who's and the what's of why Devontae Adams is good and why you should play him at captain this week. And it's possible to fit him. It's not that restrictive. Based on the salaries, there are some spots that we can go to get some sort of relief. And this was with AOC, Aiden O'Connell at quarterback. Still got 13 targets, still caught 8 of them, 75 yards. He gets Jimmy G back, who has been cleared from concussion protocol this week. So he is very solid. If I am going to have Adams as my captain, I'm going to make sure that Jimmy G is in that lineup like 100% of the time. He is locked to any of his pass catchers at captain. And there is another that we do kind of have to talk about because it's a lot cheaper, but Green Bay does have a really solid cornerback, Jair Alexander, who expects to be back for this game. Not that like Adams isn't a matchup proof guy, right? He can put up numbers, but Jimmy G is not an elevator of talent at quarterback. He is kind of like Purdy, a pizza delivery man in his own right. He's just going to put the ball to the path of least resistance. And we saw in week 1 that he chose to go to Jacoby Myers against Denver, against a very good lockdown cornerback, went to him 10 times, then 12 times in week 2, as he is going to be facing man-to-man coverage all the time. Single coverage, nobody over the top. Defenses have to roll to go deal with Adams, and they have to keep 6-7 in the box basically at all times to handle Josh Jacobs, which means Jacoby Myers gets to run around unfettered whenever he wants to, and he's getting a boatload of targets. Missed the one game in week 2. But is very solid, and I think a kind of a sneaky captain in this spot. If he happens to have a 6, 7, 8 catch game, get you a 100-yard bonus, and happens to score a touchdown, the salary relief that you get with him at captain could provide you the ability to go here, and also here if you think a Raiders onslaught is going to be the way. That is certainly a possibility. As I said, same thing with Adams. Garoppolo is going to be locked into the flex the other way. I mentioned Josh Jacobs. If you watch the shorts, the buy-sell shorts that I come out with, I have a waiver wire short, a buy-sell short, all the different shorts that come out throughout the week. Some are season-long, some are daily fantasy-centric. That's a season-long one. Well, a couple of weeks ago, I had mentioned that Josh Jacobs was a prime buy-low candidate, considering that he had started the season not so good, and people were starting to feel worried about is he going to be fine? He did not score more than 11 points the first 3 weeks. But like, look at the schedule. They were at Denver, at Buffalo, then up against Pittsburgh, who is, pretty strong in their own right. Even in a down year or whatever you want to call it, they're still out there fighting on defense, on offense, grinding away every single game. The Chargers, bad defense. Green Bay against running backs, bad defense. Josh Jacobs is entering a really soft part of this schedule, and because of the 3 bad games, remember last year he was awful the first 3 weeks of the season. Go look up his game logs. I'll wait. And then he put up like 3 straight 30-point fantasy days in a row, back to back to back. And I'm not saying he's going to do it here. I mean, 27.0. I'm not saying he's going to get another 25-plus point day, but like, it could be in the works because his volume is going to be really, really stellar pretty much all the time. 6 targets in week 2 against Buffalo, 5 against Pittsburgh, 22 opportunities that game in a loss against the Chargers in a loss. What do you have? 11 plus 17, 28 opportunities in that game. Unsurpassed volume for him. And it comes in the pass game. It comes on the ground. He's got ample inside the 5 goal to go usage. If the primary captain is going to be Devontae Adams, the secondary captain should probably be Josh Jacobs. And if you wanted to play into the, if everybody's going to be here when the crowd zigs, I'm going to zag, then going with Josh Jacobs is the way. Looking at the other side, because the Packers are favored in this game, the Raiders are really bad against everything. I do want to say this. I will have both quarterbacks at the captain spot, but I'm not going to have very much. Because here's the reasoning. Neither of them are runaway quarterbacks. And I don't mean that from a, talent on the ground, Jalen Hurts, Anthony Richardson, hope his shoulder's okay, sort of way. I mean, they're not the type of quarterback who's going to post a 30 to 35 point DraftKings day without dragging along wide receivers, and those wide receivers are going to have at least as many fantasy points as Jordan Love. He's kind of like Tua in that sense, where if Tua has a big day, and he did have a good day in week 5, somebody's going to have a bigger day on that offense. He could have 25 plus points, but Tyreek's going to have 35 plus points. So when you add in the 1.5 points or 1.5x for captain, like, there's routes to Jordan Love being the prime captain, and that's why we're going to make sure that when we play him, I'm probably going to cap both at like 5%. We're going to make sure that those lineups have basically all of his pass catchers, at least 2 of them, including the kicker, going with everybody that's on that pass. Because for him to have that sort of day, maybe he'd have to throw for 300 yards, 4 touchdowns. It's not out of the realm. Or 3 touchdowns, run for 1. Not out of the realm of possibility. But like, they'd have to beat a randos. It would, like, Musgrave would have to catch 1 on like 3 catches for 30. Watson would have to have very low usage. Nobody would have a big day, but everybody would have like an okay day. Nobody would have more than like 70 yards receiving. Nobody would have more than like 5-6 catches, which, sure, the possibility of that happening is there. It's non-zero for sure, but the probability of something like that happening is not extremely high. And the same thing goes on the other side for Jimmy G, right? If he has a monster day, if he has a 300-yard passing day, 2 touchdowns, still only had 23 points. And if you look at his receivers, somebody had a big day, right? That they would have been the optimal captain. But in case he has one of those random days, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to build that group with 2 of his guys and his quarterbacks. Hunter Renfrow is just awful. We'll get to Hooper later. Anybody up, Myers running like, 40% of the routes that Hooper's running, playing 40% of the snaps that Hooper's running. Basically, you're throwing every one of his possible pass catchers in that group and stacking at least 2 of them with Jimmy G at captain. But as I said, that is a low probability route that I'm not going to be attacking. On the other side of the football, so looking at the Green Bay plays, Aaron Jones did not play very much in his first game back. It was a Thursday night. They haven't played in a while. He played, what did he play? He got outsnapped 2-1 by A.J. Dillon the last game. And so box score watchers are going to kind of look at this and say, well, Dillon's cheaper and he's on the field more. But like, all apologies to A.J. Dillon and his calves and quads, which, by the way, phenomenal. He has not been good. And they're a bad offense when he's on the field. They have a low EPA per play. He is not scoring the touchdowns on short yardage. He is not winning in short yardage. The way that this offense needs to operate is it needs to get Aaron Jones into the game and get Aaron Jones the football a whole lot more in a lot of diverse ways, because he is the only guy that can do it for them at the running back spot and be dynamic. So he is a viable captain, obviously, especially against this matchup. And the other side, Christian Watson, if we're going with one of the pass catching options, ran 20 routes last week. And I think that, what did Jordan Love have? 42 dropbacks. So it was his first game back from injury after missing most of the first month of the season. So they were clearly going to kind of slowly ramp him up, which is the way that the Packers medical staff does things. They don't rush into anything. They don't do nothing without a plan. They're like, they're like the Russian sub commanders. They're not doing anything without a plan. So I expect him now, week and a half later after that game, he's gotten his feet back under him. He's had treatment. He's had a lot of practice. He's going to take over the alpha spot in this offense. Even though Romeo Doubs has shown really good chemistry with Jordan Love, Christian Watson is the more dynamic player. He's the one who can handle double coverages. Tremendous touchdown rate. Again, like, how does he just keep scoring touchdowns with 4 targets and 2 catches? But he did it. So he, when at captain, is going to be forced by me to have Love in the line. If you don't want to do it, you don't. But like, if Watson has a day where he is the optimal captain, specifically in a game where Aaron Jones exists, and so does Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs, he's going to have a pretty phenomenal day, 40, 50 points as the captain, which means that Jordan Love is also going to have a pretty phenomenal day. And that, to me, is it for the captains that I'm going to be looking at. So let's go over to Underdog Fantasy. And if you have not claimed your free $100 from Underdog Fantasy, use code ALSMIZZLE, ALSMIZZLE, all one word. And you get up to $100 deposit on your first deposit to the site. Why are you not picking up a free $100? You could use it on a pick'em just like this one that I've built. Now look, lowers are smarter, they're sharper, they have more outs, they have more ways to get there, but I don't like to play these smartly. I like to be a complete donkey. So I'm going to go with Josh Jacobs over 72.5 rushing yards. Christian Watson 39.5 receiving yards seems awfully low to me. Like, that seems like a free square. And we're going to say Devontae Adams gets himself into the painted area. Try and win 600 for our 100. We're going to submit that. Boom, confirm. Yes, please give me that. Go over to Underdog. Get your deposit bonus today. Why are you leaving money on the table? Don't leave your kids out in the street. Getting back to a couple of plays that I think are going to be either values or low played plays, because we want to be sure that we're having something to differentiate our lineups, right? I want 1 or 2 players in every lineup that's going to be less than 20 or 25% played, because Showdown is a game with very few combinations that are optimal. So when you get onto these lineups, you're going to have duplicated lineups. It's very hard to get a fully unique lineup that has really a realistic chance of scoring the most points on that night. So when you do win, you'd rather hold hands with, like, I don't know, 5 people if you're going to tie than 55 or 105 people, and really cut down the amount of money that you can win, because, like, there's $1 million up top. So if I could split this with 10 people as opposed to 100 people, that would be much better. So the players that I want to focus on, I know people are going to look at Renfro because he's 3,300 and he's somewhat cheap, but he's just not been good. Like, I'm going to have some, clearly, but I'm not thrilled about it. Zamir White, in the case of an injury, sure, but not getting very much run. Not somebody that I really want to highlight in this spot. Let's look at him in the flex, though. Austin Hooper, out-snapping, not quite 2-1, but close. Is out-snapping the rookie Michael Meyer, I don't pronounce his name, whatever. He ain't playing. I don't need to learn how to pronounce your name if you ain't on the field. If you're holding a helmet, I'm not learning how to pronounce your name. 2 targets. I know it's paltry, but he's 600 and it's Showdown, and every single point matters. If he happens to catch one of his 2 targets in that nice silver and black painted area in front of the crazy people that wear the spikes and the shoulder pads and the monkey uniforms, and paint their faces silver with patches and stuff, you get 6 points for that. In fact, you get 7 because it's a catch plus the yardage. There might be a decimal in there. That's a smash. If Austin Hooper gets you like 7.5 points in a Showdown slate for 600 to allow you to fit everything, it's very, very good. He's not going to be highly held. People love to overplay kickers and defenses and the flex and everywhere else because they project better. They should get more points, but You don't want to do that as often. Like, I'm going to have them, but I limit my kickers and defense to 1 per lineup. Another guy who is disappointed so far this season. Remember before week 1, he was Luke Must-Play? Well, he's Luke Musgrave. And now, in the first game that Christian Watson came back, he only got 1 target in that game. Now, granted, he did leave the game with a concussion. He played like, what, 14 routes, got 1 target. All the others went to like Degura and everybody else that after he left the game. He's back now out of concussion protocol, but 5,200. Strange that he's like the same price that Logan Thomas was last game when I labeled him as not a mispriced player, but an awkwardly priced player for Showdown. We're like, well, you either want to pay way down and get a guy that might have more room for you to fit somebody up top. Nobody wanted to play Logan Thomas in the last one. He was very low percentage held and had a very big game. With the amount of service that he's been getting when healthy, 3, 4, 5 targets. If one of those ends up in the paint, if he has a 5-6 catch day for like 60 yards, that's more than enough to propel that lineup and could outscore the kicker, which is really the key based on where his price is versus where the kicker's prices is. The kickers are going to have much higher percentage than somebody like Musgrave. And the last one, a little bit higher, another awkwardly priced player, is Jaden Reed. Running out of the slot now pretty much completely with Watson back on one side and Dobbs on the other side. Jaden Reed gets to man the slot against a Raiders defense that is gettable. Maybe in a 5-1 lineup, you go with somebody like him to fit all the expensive Raiders with Hooper. Totally understand it. Makes sort of sense in the middle. These are the low percentage, low owned guys that we're looking for on this slate. Let's head over to Fantasy Labs. Take a look at the lineup builder. As I said, I don't really allow kicker and defense at the captain spot. I'm going to break that rule anytime the Giants are in Showdown, okay? We're just going to do that from now on. Anytime, and not all expanded past the Giants. Anytime there is a showdown that has a quarterback whose last name is Jones, Mac Jones, Daniel Jones, Charlie Jones, I don't care what Jones, I'll open up defense and captain on those slates because those guys take a whole boatload of sacks. The rules that we talked about before: pair your captain quarterback with at least 2 wide receiver, tight end, kicker from their team, and one of the skill position players, not a defense or a kicker from the other side. I want upside when I'm building these lineups. Pair your captain wide receiver with their quarterback. Same with the tight end if you're playing them at captain, which I really don't foresee on this slate. Make sure their quarterback's with them, because if they have a captain viable game, that quarterback is also going to have a flex viable game. You're going to need all those points, and I'm going to limit to at most 1 defense and kicker from the entire game. And here's that rule: we're going to force at least 1 running back or wide receiver where the percentage is less than 25%. You can expand this to tight end should you choose to do so. Build your lineups however you like. We're going to apply these rules. We're going to sort by, let's sort by ceiling today and generate 150 lineups. If you do not have access to the Fantasy Labs lineup builder, go to smizzle.tv/labs with an uppercase L and go get some Fantasy Labs in your life. It's the lineup builder that I use. I'm the most fluent with. Lineup builders are a tool. I'm not saying that this one is the best or that one is the best. This is the one that I use because I have the most fluency with it, and it's what I use to build my Millionaire Maker lineups and Showdown lineups every single week. Make sure that you're going over this again and again and again to get the correlations, combinations, and allocations that you want throughout your lineups. It's not just go there, click, generate, and print money. That's not how a lineup builder works. Go play with it. You can't do anything wrong if you do that. Best of luck to you, Monday Night Showdown. Look out for another video right there.
He's a legend.